Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic Roundtable Show. This is episode 630. We're recording this on the 17th of September 2021. We do this around 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time every Friday. You can join us on the WP-Tonic Mastermind Facebook group, and you can watch us live and comment and take the mickey out of me. That's my purpose. I've got a great panel. My co-host Andrew Palmer is going to be a little bit late, but he will be joining us. Like I say, I've got a great panel. I've got a great set of stories. I'm going to let the panel quickly introduce themselves. We've got Tom. We've got Tom back. Tom, can you quickly introduce yourself to the tribe?
Sure. Tom Finelli. I'm the CEO and founder of Convesio, and we are a scalable WordPress hosting provider.
And a very good one. I've got my friend Spencer. Spencer, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. It's Spencer Foreman from, it says Launch Flows there, or WP Launchify.
Yeah, they're both great companies. And I've got Sally. Sally, my friend Sally, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I am Sally Getch, the WP fangirl and disorganized organizer of the East Bay WordPress meetup.
I don't think your sound is actually going through your speaker, your mic, actually, Sally.
Oh.
Oh, it's very strange sounding.
It sounds a little tinny.
Tinny, sounding very tinny.
That's why.
Yes, there you go. And the main thing is, Sally, the main news of the week is your cat's recovering, Sally. This is the important bit.
Yes, fortunately, there we go. Yeah, we're using the camera mic instead of the microphone mic for some reason. She's doing fine. She had to have 3 teeth removed, poor thing, but she's on soft food for another week, so she may yet be joining us. She's otherwise.
Oh, she's always welcome. My viewing figures expand enormously with the cats coming on the show. I've got my co-host, the only Andrew Palmer. Andrew, would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners and viewers, to the tribe?
Hello, I'm Andrew Palmer with a bit of a bad hair day. From Bertha.ai today.
All right, yeah, it's going to go all public. Right, before we go into the main stories of the week, and I think I've got some excellent ones, I want to talk about Castos, a great platform. If you're looking to get into, if you're looking to get listeners and viewers, Spencer's most enjoyable thing is to put me off in mid-phrase. So there we go. He's just done it. Our great sponsor.
Look, a butterfly.
It's a great.
I saw Andrew was wearing those headsets that I recently discovered.
Yeah, there we go. Castos.
Air shocks. Or whatever they're called.
Have you finished?
Let the poor man praise his sponsor.
It's rather important, Spencer. They do spend a lot of money with me.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you, Spencer. Castos is a great platform, and if you're looking to get into podcasting for yourself or for clients, you should really look at them. I joined them about 6 or 7 months ago. I've just been blown away. I bought my own plan with my own money. Got into discussions with them, with Matt Medeiros, head of sales and customer experience, and also Craig, the founder. They are just great people. Great in the WordPress community, and they just got a great platform. If you want to get into podcasting, like I say, for yourself or for your clients, you need to look at what they've got to offer. It's amazing value. So go over there, buy one of their plans, and tell them that you heard about them on the WP Tonic show. You'll be supporting the show and the tribe. So let's get into the meat of this. If I can get my show notes in a position where I can read them, which would be helpful. So, W Engine launches. I can't pronounce this even. First,
Faust.
The German.
You must know the story of Faust.
Yeah, I do, and the philosopher, the German philosopher that wrote it. So, Spencer, what did you think of this story, Spencer?
Well, I think this demonstrates where the future probably lies, but it also revealed to me some of the same difficulties if you branch out into a headless WordPress. And essentially, for those that don't know what the hell is going on here, WordPress provides a very solid back-end data management system. Let's put it in layman's terms, where you can add the data, you can manage the data, you can do all kinds of stuff. But some people have ventured out into the world of, what if we just separated that from the front-end display stuff and we created very dynamic, based on JavaScript and running in the browser, the client interfaces to show the data in new and unique ways. And so it's really exciting because for those that are geeky, you don't have to use all the PHP, HTML, CSS, or even
because it's just ever so much easier to write in React.
Well, exactly right. So here's where the plus and the minus revealed itself to me about that. I think the term is robbing Peter to pay Paul. So just at the moment where we're sort of rounding the corner on realizing we've all finally decided to use the same rules in this baseball game or football game, or we're all using the same tools for this framework of WordPress. Now the geeks have branched out, and I don't mean this in a bad way, into what if we decided to just change the whole way we display stuff on the front end? Now, I think it's exciting because they're going to end up doing a lot of stuff that's going to take a lot of time. And for many corporate or enterprise solutions, it's really amazing because then you can dump all the other problems. But for the layman's, it just sort of makes one more layer of, what are you talking about? Like, what's going on here exactly? So hopefully they keep those channels separated nicely so that the mainstream people who come into WordPress don't have to second guess how a WordPress site works for them. But for the hardcore enterprise level people, they have another mechanism to use the same backend.
So Tom, I'm not they bought Genesis and it was always part of WordPress, but it was also its own effective silo. And then that effectiveness was, Sally would argue with me about what I'm just about to say. But in my opinion, its effectiveness as a silo was diminished. Are they trying to get the magic back in some ways with this?
Well, look, here's the deal with WP Engine. You got to think of this from their perspective, and I'm doing a little bit of crystal ball reading here when I talk about this, and I've said this before. If you're WP Engine and you're preparing to have an IPO, okay, you have to grow revenue. It's a lot harder to grow revenue at 150 million than it is to grow it at 10. And so if you're them and you're losing customers going to headless alternatives, they're going to be the bigger enterprise customers, okay? And so I looked at this like, I think it's awesome. I think it's great. I don't think we're anywhere close to headless or decoupled being mainstream for the vast majority of people using WordPress. But I think those high value enterprise customers with dev teams on their website, they're going to use that stuff. And WP Engine doesn't want to lose those customers because they're their high value customers. Now, with the whole thing of like Genesis and all that kind of stuff, I think there's kind of this bifurcated approach, right? You've got this headless stuff, which I think is clearly in the future forward enterprise high value space, but you also have them trying to get the more, I don't want to use starter to indicate it's like, but they're agencies, they're people who need tools and toolboxes. And I always thought the Genesis acquisition was to acquire those people, to get them in the fold. I personally don't love the idea of hosts bundling a bunch of products and services. People need to figure out what they want to use that's right for their business. And so it just, I think they acquired the Genesis and did that whole thing to acquire a customer base. And
yeah, they did.
So
before I want to bring Andrew in before I bring you in, Sally, because I like you to be like hear the other, because I know you're big in the Genesis community, Sally. So Andrew,
I'm about the same size in the Genesis community as I am everywhere else, but
I wasn't referring to that in any shape or form, Sally. I'm a gentleman. I would doubt you're very slim anyway. Andrew, what do you think about this?
Well, Tom's comments are interesting because he's a host, right? So, or a host application helper, if you like. So, Tom, your insights are very valuable. But the point, I think, of WP Engine et al. Acquiring Genesis in the first beginning was a lot. GoDaddy have got their own website building option. InMotion have Bold Grid, which also is sold out to other hosts as well as a website building tool. I think part of the acquisition of Genesis was that WP Engine needed to have a solution for their customers that weren't website builders. With the application of Faust, they're it's not even developer centric, really. I don't think. I think it's aimed at the end user as well, because WP Engine are going to have to, like you said, 150. It's harder to scale at 150 million than it is 10 million or 1 million or 100,000 or whatever it is. So the way they're going to scale is they'll do their 25 quid a month, and they'll say, right, here's a website, it's all ready and it's headless. So it's going to be really, really fast, because they're going to go on the fact that page speed insights are really important, and they're not that important at the moment, but they will be. And they need something to differentiate themselves from Stratic and companies like that, and Frontity. So they're taking it. Let's not forget, WP Engine got a load of money. So people have given them a load of money. So they're going out and they're making these decisions based on, in my opinion, the fact that they're going to have to scrape a little bit of the third bottom of the barrel to be able to continue their growth up until IPO. And that's my opinion. And
I would just, one interesting point there. I mean, Andrew, we'll have to see if Faust becomes a end user type of thing. But right now, like if you go to their homepage, the only graphic, the first graphic, which is in the bottom third of the page, is a terminal window showing how to create your app, which is that's going to be very foreign to people that are end users.
So, Sally, what's been the reaction of the Genesis community to this announcement, and where do you think the Genesis community think WP Engine are going with? What has been the internal discussion in that community, Sally?
I have not actually seen any discussion about this announcement. I mean, the interesting thing is that, the guy who is WP Engine's sort of main interface with the Genesis developer community is not following the headless stuff very closely. And so the Faust thing was new to me, and there's another headless sort of thing that they've apparently got going that one of my Genesis colleagues who is into headless mentioned. But I think they are kind of aimed at different types of customers, not so differently from the way you've got like WordPress.com aimed at, end user customers who want things fairly simple, and WordPress VIP aimed at enterprise customers who don't themselves necessarily want to get their hands dirty with all the complex stuff, but who need the scale and the features and are willing to pay the big bucks for it.
No, actually, you want to move your mic where it's actually better.
Further? Okay, yes. Yeah. I don't want to be taking your ears off. It's just sometimes I feel like it was a
little bit loud, but you knocked it and actually you improved it.
All right, I'll leave it there. So enterprises often use things like asset management tools and data management tools, where they want to say, hey, we want to keep our content in one place and create it here. And we want that content to go to like this website and this social destination and this print thing and this, internal database and this whatever. And that's kind of what the headless stuff is for. That the theory would be you use WordPress to store and handle everything, but you don't have to use WordPress to display it. You can use anything whatsoever. And, for a lot of us who aren't the ones who are sitting around whipping up, React front end stuff, that's not really relevant, and it probably won't be for a long time. But as in investment, I think that, Tom is right about it and Spence is right about it. It is partly we have to look at growth. And the acquisitions that hosting companies have made have also generally been, we have to look at some form of differentiation. Now, the hilarious thing is they will all end up picking the same things to differentiate them, themselves from each other, and then it will all start again.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right, let's go on to the story.
The rule is any article that has more than 4 acronyms in it for the tools being used, put it in the geek box. It's like I grunted my NPM and NMR, my GDP with the XYZ, and it's like, okay, I'm getting old here.
Yeah, there we go.
LBJ took the IRT.
All right, thank you very much, Sally. Let's go on to story 2. Here, a rather large story. Here's why small business kingpin Intuit is buying MailChimp for $12 billion. What did you think of this one, Andrew? You're muted, Andrew.
I wasn't listening.
Oh, right. Let's go to... Oh, God. What a show. What a train wreck. Spencer.
I read it.
Right.
I actually had the pleasure of listening to a regular called How I Built This on NPR with Guy Raz. And it's really a great show in general because they do it like a professional show. I'm not talking about anything we're talking about here. I'm saying like he really produces it. They say it takes like a month to produce a show. But they did this really in-depth story of Ben Chestnut and MailChimp because I remember, kids, I'm old enough to remember when MailChimp first came out and the story of how it came out. And it's like really incredible when you hear about like an ordinary agency from Atlanta that accidentally stumbles into creating a $12 billion with a B dollar sale. Like that is freaking ridiculous. The interesting thing to me, because I spent a lot of my time in the space of marketing automation, is MailChimp 3 years ago took an interesting turn, which was not necessarily a bad idea considering they just sold it for $12 billion, but that like conscientiously decided not to follow the normal framework of terms and methods of many marketing automation tools. For example, having lists, but also having tags and so forth, and custom fields is how most of the CRMs work. MailChimp decided in their automation to kind of like nudge the needle a little bit farther than the old-fashioned lists, but only just a little. So their emphasis on being super simple has always ruled their choices. And it worked for them, obviously, but as a process, I think MailChimp is the de facto beginner business tool. It's not at active campaign level. It's not even trying to be at like Salesforce or HubSpot or Infusionsoft or any of the other one level. It's you have a small business owner who just wants enough to keep their accountant happy, connect with certain things. And because QuickBooks or Intuit, have made a living out of, in my mind, disappointingly going after that audience and taking advantage of their naivete. I think this is a really good acquisition for them, but I don't think that the outcome is going to be necessarily amazing for the end users. I think it's going to be kind of like GoDaddy acquiring something. And I'm a little cynical.
I totally agree. I thought that was a fantastic analyzation of my own position. I think you are spot on there, Spencer. Andrew, you're muted, but can you join us? Do you want to comment now on this?
Yeah, absolutely want to comment, because I want to comment on it from a small business perspective. Intuit own QuickBooks. It's fairly obvious why they want a built-in web solution, because MailChimp, you can build your own landing pages, you can have your own lead generation tool. You can, I actually don't disagree with Spencer that it's not Active Campaign. I swap from Active Campaign to MailChimp, and I get so much better results with MailChimp. It's crazy how better the results are. They don't get lost in the spam. They don't get, I just get better results. And I think from a user, so I've got a VA, and the VA loves MailChimp. Active Campaign is just too complex. It's just.
Well, it depends what you
sorry,
want
I don't get it. And the way that MailChimp handle your data and your lists and they do tags, and you can build a website within MailChimp just for a particular marketing campaign. And where I've used it is that I used to specialize and still do specialize in distress websites. So when a website goes down, you need to build a quick website, send out an email and say, this is what's going on. Or if you've got, for instance, a callback on a vehicle and you don't want it advertised on your own main website, you can build a distress website, and you can literally, in MailChimp, you can build a landing page, another page, and a contact form, connect it to your database, email it out, have all your unsubscribes there, have all your subscribes in one hit. So Intuit have made an awesome decision to buy this. Whether or not I think it's worth 12 billion, I don't know. You know, I can't even imagine how a company like MailChimp, 12 years old, you know, run by people like us, which is great, you know, and they've managed to sell it for 12 billion over a period of time. But the actual value that Intuit will get out of it is all of MailChimp's customers, and they all want them to do online bookkeeping, tax returns, accountancy, and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's one of the most intelligent purchases of this year, to be honest.
I see where you're going, Sally. I see where Andrew's going, but I don't agree with everything Andrew has said. I think what we're looking at here, Sally, is a kind of constant contact kind of setup where
I hope not.
Well,
I detest constant contact.
Yeah, but why I'm saying that is I understand why Intuit have bought it, because there wasn't much more growth. They dominate the accountancy area, and there wasn't, and
it's a membership economy play, like all the other stuff we talk about, because they realize that they can't grow based upon new features added to the software they have. So if they acquire the user base and give everybody an all-in-one price every month, it becomes the come here for all your business solutions and then pay and stay.
I also, Sally, think MailChimp, for reasons I don't fully understand, got a bit lost in how they were trying to. My experience is very different to Andrew's. I found their automation solutions to be behind the curve, in my opinion. But that's my opinion. What do you think about this, Sally?
Well, I like MailChimp and I don't like QuickBooks. So, you know, from a personal perspective, I'm not necessarily thrilled. But I believe, you know, I absolutely agree with what everyone has said, that it's a smart decision for Intuit. You know, I hope it's a smart decision for MailChimp, although, you know, I think one can forgive a lot for $12 billion. It will be kind of interesting. You know, MailChimp is known for its quirky personality as a company. And QuickBooks is like, quirky is not a word that you would, you know, or playful. No, right. And not necessarily appropriate for accounting. But
they're bringing the fun back to accounting.
Yeah.
We'll help you do creative accounting.
Yeah. Well, you got a good point, Tom. Sally's really put a good point here, because there were two big and the price, you can, you know, but there's a lot of money sloshing out there, not for a lot of people, but for some people there's a lot of money sloshing around. But she's brought up the culture. These two companies are they're public personas.
Right. Yeah, I have no idea what they're like.
They're public.
Intuit is like internally for the employees, but I would expect a lot more corporate than MailChimp, because that's not a high bar.
Yeah, thank you, Sally. Like I was saying, Tom, they've got very different public personas, haven't they, Tom? To say the least, haven't they?
Well, yeah, and I mean, this reminds me of the culture clash of WP Engine and Flywheel, which we've yet to see how that's going to fully play out, but very different cultures there. I'm also reminded to the acquisition that, you know, EIG did of Constant Contact, which now is separated, I think, with the new entity that EIG went private again. But it's one of these things where I think one of the stories we haven't touched on here, and I agree. Like, I love Intuit, I like QuickBooks, so I'm surprised there's so much negativity on them. But I love them, and I like MailChimp too. And I think there's going to be some awesome.
I would say negativity. I just think I've not personally myself, but I've heard of a lot of stories about poor support. Licensing stuff, I don't know, that kind of stuff.
The interesting thing I read though, and is that the employees of MailChimp are incredibly upset at the moment over this. And I don't know if you guys read any of these articles, but it was all over. The culture of MailChimp was they told people, we will never sell this company, and they didn't give equity to anyone. So the article I read is the two founders are going to make $5 billion each off this.
That's untrue. In the actual announcement, Tom, they said they're going to, MailChimp staff get equity. So wherever that is, again, it's false news, fake news, whatever. But if you read the press release of Intuit, the press release of MailChimp, they are definitely saying that over the period of the purchase period, however long that is, over 3 years, the MailChimp staff will get rewarded for their service. They won't get billions or maybe even millions. They might get a couple of million each, but they certainly will be rewarded for their loyalty to MailChimp. I mean, it's just silly to say for other people to say.
I don't know about that. I'm going to drop the article in the thing. It's a very legitimate article, and it's I mean, there's direct interviews with employees here, and so
it's probably.
I definitely think that Intuit probably is going to maybe work out some deal for them going forward.
I think we're in a grey area. I think there's negotiations stuff going. We probably will comment on this next week, where the information is more clearer, Tom. So we're going to go for our break. We're coming back.
A couple articles here that list the situation.
We're going for our break. We'll be coming back, folks. We've got some extra great stories. We've got bonus content, which you can only watch on the WP-Tonic Mastermind Facebook group. You can only watch this show live on our group, so please join the tribe on the group Facebook page. You're most welcome to join us there. We'll be back in a few moments. We're coming back. We've had some great stories. You've heard Spencer and his launch flow. Spencer's been really generous. He's offered the tribe a special deal, which you can get at the WP-Tonic Backspace newsletter. Go to that page, sign up for our weekly newsletter. Part of that newsletter is more insights from my co-host Andrew, and a video from me ranting on about these stories in my own personal style, which I know, tribe, you love so much. So to watch that, you've got to sign up for our newsletter. And I will not be mincing my words on story 4. I've got some real stuff to say about story 4, which I won't say on the podcast. I'm saving it for my newsletter. So please sign up for it. Yes, Spencer, did you have something to say?
Yeah, no? hand over the. I think this would be a worthy extension of this other story for a moment. Is there's two founders who are nice guys. I don't think, from reading, especially listening to Ben Chestnut, they were never bad guys. Like, they ran the company. There was a couple incidents after a big Halloween party. They said that the whole company rioted, and they sat with them. They fixed all their problems, and he seems to be definitely conscientious as a founder. But it strikes me as odd that there's even this hint of a problem here, because if you were, let's say, taking the truth of the first part of that story that says $12 billion, each of them get $5 billion, Ben and his partner, wouldn't you think that their first move would be, I'm going to donate $1 billion of my 5 to my employees? Wouldn't that be your first response? Because from my standpoint, how could I spend $4 billion or 3 or 2 in my lifetime? Wouldn't it be better for my conscience and for my public persona to go, look, Spence got $5 billion and he gave $1 billion to his employees, whether he promised it or not, because like otherwise, aren't they just going to be thinking the worst and being outside of his house for the rest of his life and all the rest of that? Like at a certain point, doesn't it just become like ridiculous not to do that for your own well-being?
Okay. You could ask Jeff Bezos.
I want to get on to the story.
Get on with it, but I'll have a conversation with you after this.
Yes, sure. In the bonus content, we can continue that. For our bonus content, we can have a bit of a chat about that. But thank you, Spencer. So on to story 3. WordPress opens applications for in-person WordCamps. I've been traveling, folks. I went up to Portland on Wednesday, on Tuesday. On Wednesday, I was with Rob Wolin and his fantastic wife, with over 80 entrepreneurs, startup entrepreneurs at his one-day Portland conference. And it was just fantastic to be with such a great crowd of entrepreneurs and to be with Rob. It was just a fantastic conference. So I think one of the great strengths of WordPress has been its WordCamps. I plan to go to as many on the West Coast as I can as they open and spread the message of the tribe to those that don't know and should be joining us. Andrew, what do you think? Are you looking for WordCamps coming back in person in the near future?
I've already booked Porto.
Yes, I'm going there as well.
The biggest WordCamp in the world, by the way, European. So, I think Automatic need to wake up, because Europe is not the USA.
Well, going to Porto in June does sound a bit better than going to some godforsaken frozen place in December, some godforsaken place.
St. Louis in October was not too hot, frankly. But what I'm talking about is that Europe, the Berlin one that I went to, 3,000 people, 3,600 registrants, and about 28 to 3,000 people. That's the biggest WordCamp in the world ever, right? So that shows that Europe is, and there were some Americans there as well. It was great that they took the time to travel over, and Beaver Builder Roby was there, and Chris Lemmer was there, and all that kind of stuff. I believe Chris Lemmer was there. Maybe not. Maybe I saw him in St. Louis. But the point is that we're getting ignored in Europe by WordPress, and I need them to wake up and say, right, we are going to be more Europe centric. We're going to be more global centric. We're going to accept that the Spanish speaking world is Argentina and Chile and Uruguay and all these places, and Spain and whatever, and don't ignore Europe. There was no real big Matt gave his speech and everything, but why I'm going to Porto is because a lot of Americans are saying, I want to come to Porto because I want to travel to Europe. I'm going to make a week of it or 10 days of it or whatever. It's cheap, whatever. I've already booked the B&B. I've already booked my flights. I'm going. It's that simple.
I'm flying to Porto, and then afterwards I'm going to see my family. So it all kind of links up for me.
Perfect.
And we can meet up in person, and you can buy me a few drinks, can't you, Andrew?
We can meet up.
Right. Thanks, Andrew. Spencer, I was talking to one of the people from Automatic in my interview show, and Anne, she's the head of reorganizing these WordCamps. I think there were some problems with WordCamps in some ways before the pandemic hit. Would you agree that it needs some reviving in some ways?
I think you can look at this on those two levels. First of all, the WordCamps themselves pre-pandemic were turning into a little bit of a problem. That's being nice about it.
Yeah.
The second is, despite being fully vaccinated or otherwise, there is still the unfortunate reality of our world that there are many people who are either not vaccinated, partially vaccinated but able to carry it and transmit it. So to me, it seems a little bit too much too soon to start putting a bunch of people in a closed room who are coming from all over the world. And logistically, that's a problem because, for example, I have friends who live in Great Britain still, and Great Britain has a pay-to-play COVID testing system. It costs you £400 or something, and you have to take like 6, 8, 10 tests to just leave the country and come back. And other places like Canada won't let you in and out or come to America. Logistically, if the world is still a bit of a shit show, doesn't it seem ridiculous to be talking like, let's all bring everybody together from around the world like the problem doesn't exist? Regardless of your political beliefs, just as a practical thing, it seems like you'd be better focused on let's do a really amazing last virtual hoo-ha, and then 2023 we can start talking about word.
Well, we have to see with the microconf that there was strict protocols that you had to prove that you had been vaccinated, both vaccinations, and there was strict distancing and masks. But I do take what you say.
Yeah.
But
one bad apple spoils a whole bunch.
Before I pass it on to the others, what do you think quickly? What do you think was one or two of the key problems with WordCamps in general before the pandemic that you see, Spencer?
Kind of reminds me of, back in the day, South by Southwest, the early days of South by Southwest in Austin was a cultural music art festival. And then it kind of evolved into a tech meetup. And for a while it was like super hip, kind of like tech meets music meets art and all the rest. And then it turned into basically something that to my minds would be like going to Las Vegas to the electronic show or something, where it just was fully corporatized and the rest of it. And I think that the problem is that depending on where you go to a WordCamp, you get a mix of like, oh, I can't believe I'm here, to, oh, I can't believe I wasted my time coming here, because it really depends a lot on the organization, the speakers, the topics, and so forth. And there's no guarantee that one is better than the other. The other part about it is, and this isn't for everybody, but like there are many examples, including Chris Lemma does some of them, of small meetups of high-powered, let's say, knowledgeable people who get together for I don't know what the word would be, like a resort meetup. Those kind of gatherings seem to be much more efficient and effective if you really wanted to gain some knowledge, because you can go to a really small group in a resort somewhere or whatever, and actually talk and get to know and deep dive with people, versus how much attention are you really going to get with your mask on at a hotel talking to a bunch of people that have 2,000 other people to talk to. I just feel like it's just not a huge benefit to cost and hassle ratio, versus the alternative. I'll fly to your city and talk to you.
Because I've got an announcement for you, Spencer. WP-Tonic is going to be doing a conference next October in Reno. It's going to be called Conf WP. And I'll be holding it. I'll be looking for support and sponsorship, Tom. And we'll be hopefully be getting all those that want to build a business on WordPress coming up to Reno and joining the WP-Tonic tribe. I'll be giving more details as the months pass by.
I think what I was looking for was mastermind, like a mastermind.
A mastermind. I might even ask you to fly over and speak at it, Spencer, if you're available.
I'll send that first class ticket. I'll be right over.
Yeah, well, that might be the problem. You'd be in baggage, actually. Sally,
send the jet, John. Send the jet.
Right. Sally, what do you think of this?
Yes, back to our story. About opening applications for in-person WordCamps. And, they've outlined a process. And I think, because people have been asking, people everywhere in organizations that used to have a lot of stuff happen in person, all of the members of the organization are saying, so, like, are we going back? When are we going back? How are we going back? We want to know. We want to be able to plan. We want to whatever. So, the community team put together a flow chart that basically says, like, number one, does your local community actually allow, indoor gatherings for large groups. If not, obviously, you still have to meet online. And then, does the, venue comply with the checklist and et cetera. But a lot of it is kind of up to, first, the organizers making the decision and what they feel comfortable with. And second, of course, what's actually going on at the location, since some places have a high vaccination rate and a low COVID rate, and other people are, other places are the other way around, and so on. And so, they've set out this here. If you can check these boxes, you can have an in-person gathering. I'm personally not expecting to get my meetup back and, live until 2022. I mean, we could probably have our group, spaced out, adequately and wearing masks. And I suspect most of us are vaccinated. But trying to give a presentation wearing a mask, it's harder to project your voice. And one of the things, and it's like, they can't eat pizza with their masks on,
Yeah.
So you would just miss a lot, I think, having to work with that. But people do want to go back, and so you need some kind of plan for it. How many groups will start meeting in person? That's going to really depend on the organizer and the group and the members, and it's not just, can you yourself get a vaccine, but hey, do you have kids who are too young to be vaccinated, or high risk people in your family that you don't want to potentially carry the virus to? It's still it's a fraught environment, and yet, of course, everyone wants to go back to meeting in person.
Well, I think it's going to change a bit, but I think you're right. I think especially the second half of 2022, if we aren't in a better situation, God help us. That's what I've got to say. We haven't moved on a bit. But I also think Spencer is right. I think to try, I think at MicroConf they really did their best, but Rob did say they had to cancel about over half of their MicroConf local they were planning to do. They had to, over half of them, cancel them. So I agree with Spencer. The situation, to say it's fluid and difficult, would be under. Tom, have you got any quick observation about this before we go on story 4? Because I do want to wrap this up.
Not really.
In there.
Not really. I think you guys covered it.
Right. Thank you, Tom. So I'm going to keep my views about this last story to myself and for my own video, so Spencer doesn't blow his head off. But I'm going to ask Sally to remark this. I introduced this story. It was to the panel. It was a added story, but I think it's fascinating, and I also think it's extremely disturbing, but not that surprising, Sally. So, Facebook aware of Instagram's harmful effect on teenage girl, leaks reveal. I found this a very disturbing article, Sally. What did you think about it?
Well, as the only person in this group who's ever been a teenage girl, one thing is,
well, you talk about yourself, dear.
I had seen this headline kind of flash across my screen, and a different one about, Facebook is aware of these things. It's disturbing that they should be aware of it and not admit it, but it's also completely in character for Facebook, because that's how they've been about everything. And I also think we need to put it in some perspective, because God help teenage girls, absolutely freaking everything makes them feel worse about their bodies. Everything is designed to make women feel worse about their bodies. And like they're not okay, and you have to like buy this makeup and these clothes and follow that weight loss program and get this surgery and God even only knows what, but you cannot possibly be okay as you are. And so like all media has done this practically since the dawn of time. I would say probably still when they, it was drawings of women in corsets.
I'm not being rude here, but I just want to put this to you, Sally. I do understand where you're coming from, but this particular group, the reason why I think it's so alarming is that these girls at this particular age, that bulimia and eating disorders, this is where it really starts. This is where a mental disease that could destroy their lives and kill them really starts to really generate. And the cynicism of this company is breathtaking. I mean, I'm going to start ranting, and like I say, I'm going to leave it for my video.
I mean,
it's just the
father of a
cynicism.
teenage girl comment.
Oh, please.
Right, so the reason I was late is because I was visiting my 18-year-old daughter, soon to be 19. She doesn't have Instagram. But along with all her friends and everything, they have certain anxiety issues. I'm very lucky that I've got, obviously we all think our children are beautiful, but she is a genuinely beautiful kid, with a beautiful mind and everything. But there are issues sometimes when we go to a restaurant. You can't ask the waiter or anything for a drink and stuff. I'm not going to share too much, but there's definitely anxiety there. I'm anxious myself sometimes, and people don't believe that. When we have meetings, Tom and Spencer will know this. When we had in-person meetings years ago, when I was a print rep, and I knew that there were 10 board members going to discuss this £2 million print project, I'd sit in my car and I'd have to blow into a paper bag. So I think we all suffer from anxiety and some mental health issues in any way, and slight bit of depression, sometimes too much happiness, all that kind of stuff. I think to blame one business, yes, they've done the research, yes, they've kept it secret. Like Sally said, I absolutely echo her thoughts on this. Has been happening. The press, the public, men have been mentally subjugating women for thousands of years and causing anxiety and causing distress and stuff like that. So you've got, yes, social media should be held accountable for it. I totally agree with that. Should they be to blame? Absolutely not. It's a thing that's happened for hundreds and hundreds. Sally said, this is what magazines do. What does Vogue do? Cosmopolitan do? They put on a size 0 for our American viewers here, size 0 person, and say this is how you should be. How are you meant to feel like that when we look at Muscle Man?
Yeah, I do understand. Obviously, I'm not being rude.
You can't blame social media, John. That's my view.
That's great because we. So, Tom, I fundamentally disagree with my co-host here because I think I want to zero in on the specifics of teenage girls, and they've done this research. They've repressed it. They know internally. They've got clear research about how damaging their platform is to this, and they refuse to share that research with academics that have asked to have access to that data, and they refuse to share it, and they know internally that it is damaging. What can you say about a company that has a culture like that, Tom?
This is a repeat of the cigarette industry. It's a complete, I mean, I don't know what it is, and I'm not saying that, these social media platforms sought out to create this monster that they've created, but I've got 4 kids, 2 are teenagers, and the news that they have this data is, I think, the tip of the iceberg of what we're going to learn is a combination of this social media. Like, I don't ever remember when I was a kid thinking about depression, all of this stuff. My kids talk about it and think about it all the time, whether it's stuff they deal with or their friends. It is I don't even want to say it's uncovered, it's amplified. And it's amplified by things. Well, it's amplified by people saying you should take drugs to make this better, medicated drugs, not illegal drugs. You should have therapy. You should do this. You should do this. And I think there's a role that social media and devices play in this, with this dopamine rush that devices play and technology plays, and the imagery of like everything being so fake out there, and people seeing themselves through not their own worldview lens, but this worldview lens that's not a true worldview lens from social media. And so I think all of this stuff is, I think that it's going to take 20 years probably, but I think we're going to look back on this, and it's going to be like looking back on the cigarette industry. Maybe the social media giants, it'll come out, are more malicious than we think that they are. But I think this is a very interesting stage. I hope it's one that's passing, and I hope we evolve past this in a generation, because I think it's extremely harmful on young kids.
Right, Spencer.
Tom, are you one of those odd people who had a happy childhood?
I was ignorantly blissful, I guess.
Yeah, right. Great.
You know what else is very concerning though? I'm nervous about this. I think there's been three points here I've been at odds with Andrew on. I'm nervous about that. I don't know what's happening. It's like we're in a reality distortion field here. I usually agree with Andrew on stuff, and today
I've been the same. I through this I've disagreed with him almost every point he's made, but there we go. Spencer, my patience with this company and with its founder is just at all-time bottom. I'm not going to start ranting. Like I say, I'm going to leave that to my own video.
Yet you're spending all your time encouraging people to join you on a Facebook group.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I am. But we will be moving platforms when we get to a certain size, Sally. I can assure you of that. My patience with the founder and with this particular company is at all-time low. Spencer, what do you think about it?
In this particular case, because I have kids ranging from 10 to 20, I have to say that my concerns, like Tom's, are not just focused on Facebook. They're focused on social media and the unfortunate extra kicker of the COVID environment, because I have a 10-year-old who is in an environment where he was socially isolated by need, for a year plus. We had limited contact with his friends. He's back to normal school now with the masks, but him and all of his grade are having to have extra intervention from the counselors and the teachers to learn how not, a 10-year-old boy, learn how not to be concerned about every little detail of what car his mom is driving, or what clothes the kids are wearing, or what kind of phone do you have, or something. And the reason why this has happened, I could not agree more than with Tom, which is in the 70s, we were latchkey kids, but we saw some cool toys on ABC on Saturday morning, but you wore whatever clothes you had and you threw dirt clods at each other. And that was the way it was. Now everything is judged through the portal of the lazy device of the phone or the TV, and you only see in comparison to the TikToker person who's giving their fake imagery of what you're supposed to look like. And for girls, it's whatever, you're so perfect or your makeup is so great. And for boys, ironically, some of the same stuff, like what material thing do you have, or what are you wearing, or what car?
Who has the brand name Nikes, and who's the schlub wearing the Kmart tennis shoes?
Because and I'm not blaming this particular person, but in YouTube, there's some people that make lots of money because of their viewers. And depending on how they act, they're benevolent. Like this guy, Mr. Beast. does really apparently good stuff with his money, gives away a lot of stuff, but he has so much viewership and so much money that he's able to do weird Oprah-like stuff, such as, let's do a gag where we give away brand new Mercedes-Benzes to people at the grammar school and stuff. And so my kid has this distorted view of what kind of car a normal person should be driving, because Mr. Beast can give away $4 million of cars in a YouTube video. And it's really, I think the metaphor of 20 years down the road, we'll be looking at like, you know, the Marlboro Man. Yeah, if we make it that far without some other repercussions.
Yeah, I don't want to overstress it, but I want to really, before we go to the recommendation, I just want your comment on this, Spencer. The specifics around teenage, because we know this between 14 and 18, this particular target group, that a disease that could lead to many of them dying. You know, it's a really serious disease, isn't it? And they got the data and they refused to share it. I think we've got to a certain level, Spencer. We've gone beyond the Rubicon. It's disgusting, really, in my opinion. What would you say?
The problem isn't just limited to Facebook. The issue is, you know, they are one of many. My kid does not use Facebook. And, you know, I have a 20-year-old who does, but not really. Most kids don't use Facebook, to be fair about it. They won't touch it with a 10-foot pole. That's their dad's toy. They use other social media, which is sometimes worse. And that includes things like Instagram or TikTok or whatever the three-finger swipe tool of the day is. And it's all the same thing, because at the end, everybody's sitting in their room on an iPad or something or a phone instead of going and interacting in the real world, where guess what? It's always been hard. You know, the after-school movie of the week was there to help kids in the 70s figure out why you're being picked on isn't fun, or, you know, whatever the day of the reckoning may be when you grow
from a kid
like to a
no
teenager.
one had eating disorders when I was a kid.
You know, they had lots of problems that we didn't discover until later, and maybe it's a matter of they were always there,
or as much, except in those Lifetime movies. But you know, people did have depression. People had, you know, one girl in my class in my expensive posh private school had her mom commit suicide.
Right. Watch Mad Men and see, like, every single housewife on that show is on Valium and drinking whiskey.
Yeah, I think we need to go. But when I will be making, my position is slightly different. I totally agree with both of you there, but it's the cynicism of the company, and it's
that's completely disgusting. There's no one's disputing that. By the way,
I don't disagree with you on that.
She's
what
doing
I'm disagreeing with, it's not just them.
Yeah,
so you can't.
I
agree. You know, we make a habit of this in WP-Tonic, which is fine.
It's a news story.
Yeah, I know, but we pick on Facebook or Instagram or the big names and everything. But you know, you got to look at the underground social media, the Quoras of this world, and you know, where people are asking dumbass questions, you know, and people are giving dumbass answers, and QAnon and all. We need to
continue. We need to continue this in the bonus content. Let's go on to our recommendation. Mine is a podcast, the Zen Founder. It's done by Dr. Cheryl Walling, the wife of Rob Rawling. To say that they are a quality couple and a power couple would be I had the pleasure of going out with dinner with both of them on Wednesday and being with them, and to say that they are delightful and fantastic couple would be an understatement. And she does a fantastic podcast aimed at founders around mental health and other issues, and it's a fantastic podcast. It will be in the show notes. I can't recommend it more. And like I say, they're just a fantastic and generous couple. So Spencer, we got the cat back. Oh dear, we've got the star of the show. Spencer, what is your recommendation to the tribe?
I want to recommend an educational thing that's I have a couple good ones, but no, you know, I'm going to give this one instead. I wanted to do two, but the one I'm going to post in here is called number numbr.dev. DEV, sorry. And what it is imagine you're doing some calculations. I'm sorry, get rid of that little extra thing then. So numbr.dev. It's an online calculator that allows you to type in your stuff, and then you can create a document, share a document with it. So like I was doing some math with a joint venture partner or something, and I had a whole bunch of stuff, and I was like, let me do my thing. And I'm working on my local screen, and normally you have to share your screen and show the whatever. Now you can just type it into there, and it actually does the calculations, and you can save it and copy and paste it. So it's ridiculously simple.
So it solves story problems. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's a calculator that you can show online, but it keeps track of what you've typed in and also does the math for you.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like those problems on those word problems in math class where you have to figure out what the numbers are that you need to put in before you solve it.
It's more like I got a list of stuff that costs things or that you're charging me for, and I want to talk about it. And you can paste it or type it in, and the two of you can see it. So it's a calculator with a notepad, and it's just like a tool to keep in your browser.
I'm sure Andrew's making it all in Slack for me. Sally, have you got something you want to recommend to the tribe?
Yes, I would like to recommend WP Sheet Editor. I've put the link into the chat here, and it's already in Slack. This is to let you do bulk edits on your WordPress entries in a spreadsheet within the WordPress admin. So you don't have to import and export and stuff. But if you need to, add excerpts to a bunch of things at once, or fix all of the featured images because you're migrating from a site where they were all like 100 pixels or something like that, it really does save you a bunch of time. There's a free version and various premium add-ons.
That's great. Tom, put your recommend if you got one into chat, and then my great co-host will paste it into Slack for you. So Tom, what's your recommendation for the?
So I got a life-changing new one. It's called Quantum Surfing, and it's actually it's a little hard for me to explain. I'm going to read a snippet, but I
have that problem regularly, Tom.
It's basically a coaching mentorship group that you can join and program you can go through. That basically, it's designed for entrepreneurs and creators, and it's a framework that combines neuroscience, quantum mechanics, and some spirituality. But it's not this like foofy stuff that's all like ideas. It's actually designed for entrepreneurs and business people. And so far I've been through one of the courses, and it's amazing. The perspective and freshness of the way to sort of interpret the world as an entrepreneur. And the analogy is we've been trained through all the tools people give us in the world, like productivity and time management, this to be really good paddlers. But in order to catch the wave and surfing is effortless. And so it's not about how fast and hard you can paddle, because you're becoming more and more efficient at productivity and planners and this, that, and the other. It's all about catching the wave that you're riding and surfing, which becomes effortless instead of paddling. And it's really been a profound course so far. And
I'm pretty sure that if surfing was effortless, the surfers would not have those washboard abs.
That's true, yeah. I'd like to think it's swimming out to the waves. That's the hard part.
There they go. So obviously, I think I know what Andrew will want to recommend and talk about. So I left him last. Andrew, surprise me. I think it's going to be a certain Bertha that you want to recommend, isn't it?
Listen, we've worked really hard on this. We've had quite a big dev team on this, and myself and Vito. It's our product, Bertha.ai. We felt that WordPress needed a fully integrated AI copyright assistant. So we're using GPT-3. There's no secret on that. We've trained it because we've built, between us, we worked out, Vito and I built over 4,000 websites between us. So we kind of know what the content, the type of content, the length of content, what people need to be able to write in there. And it's not just for WordPress developers or WordPress designers or freelancers. It's for customers. So, it's an opportunity for developers to be able to say, look, I can write the copy for you. And I'll leave Bertha on, and this is how you use it, and this is how we generate content for you, because content is king. Tom knows this. He chucks out an immense amount of content, and just getting the ideas. There's a blog writing suggestion. It gives you 5 titles. So go and have a look at Bertha.ai. There's a free trial. You get a trial of 1,000 words. You'll lose them. You'll use them in seconds because it's just so much fun to play with. And, we've got a great deal going on, and we love it. It works with Divi, Elementor, Gutenberg, and Classic Builder. And we've now, we've got Oxygen and Beaver Builder and WP Bakery in it as well, and Visual Composer. There's a couple of compatibility issues, but the lovely thing is that the page builder guys have come out to us and said, listen, we want to help you integrate this properly. And they're loving it. So I
look forward to using it and learning more. Andrew,
sign up for free, my friend. Yeah, not a problem.
Please do that. Please, the tribe, support the show and support Andrew.
Thank you very much.
He's become a great co-host, and thank you for your support, Andrew. It's much appreciated. So panel, let's wrap this up. Spencer, how can people find out more about you and what you're up to?
Well, I would send them over to launchflows.com, where we just had our 4.0 update, and check out what's open there, and go in our Facebook group as well at it's Launch Flows in the Facebook groups area.
Yeah. Sally, how can people find out more about you and what you are up to?
Pretty much anywhere but Facebook. I am at Sally Getch on Twitter and Instagram, and WP Fangirl more or less everywhere else.
And Tom, how can people find out more about you and what you're up to?
Sure. Tom at Convesio.com, LinkedIn, Facebook, Convesio on Twitter. Any of those places will get to me.
And Andrew, how can people find out more about Andrew Palmer?
Best place to go is thisisandrewpalmer.com, the WP-Tonic Facebook group, and of course the Bertha Facebook group as well, because I'm really focused on getting Bertha out there and helping people create content.
Yeah. I will be I'm seeking input from you, tribe. I really have lost patience with Facebook, so I probably would be considering moving the group to Slack. I want your input about that, tribe, because like I say, my patience with this particular company has really come to an end, really. So if you want us to move it to Slack, I will consider it. I also, please sign up for the newsletter. I will be ranting my own extra views, my own kind of panache to what the panel. Please also at the present moment join us on the Facebook group, where you'll be able to watch the bonus content. Thank you for joining us today. Support the tribe, tell your friends about the tribe and about the podcast. It's how we grow our community. I'll see you next week, folks. Bye.